Today, our lesson comes from Proverbs 18:22, verse 22. And I'm going to ask Sister Gabby to read in Spanish, and then one of the ladies to read in English.
El que haya esposa halla el bien y alcanza la benevolencia de Jehová.
The man who finds a wife finds a treasure, and he receives favor from the Lord.
And of course, all the single ladies say, Amen. The enduring word commentary says, God brought together. God brought together. We need a sign that we are something skywriting. God brought together the first husband and wife. God did it. Okay. We find that in Genesis, the 2nd chapter, verses 21 through 25. And we're going to read that and just let it, we've heard it, but we're going to read it and just let it soak in. Genesis, the 2nd chapter, verses 21 through 25.
And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs.
Okay, so stop right there. Who caused him to go to sleep?
God did it.
Adam went to sleep, and he produced Eve. No?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in its place. Then the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed.
Now that's what Genesis 2:21 through 25. The John MacArthur Study Bible explains these verses. The marital relationship was established as the first institution. The marriage relationship was established as the first institution. The responsibility to honor one's parents does not cease with leaving and the union of husband with the wife. But it does represent the inauguration of a new and primary responsibility. It doesn't negate that, but there is a primary responsibility that man has to his wife and wife has to her husband. Join, the word join, carries the sense of permanence, permanently, okay? Or indissoluble, it doesn't dissolve. It's a permanent union. So that divorce was not even considered. You see that if you go to Matthew, that's what Jesus said. They said to him, then it's better. Well, why did Moses and God and Jesus say, in the beginning, it was not so. Okay, it was not so. So that divorce was not considered. One flesh speaks of a complete unity of parts, making a whole. Thus, this marital union was complete and whole with two people. This also implies their sexual completeness. one man, okay, one woman constitutes the pair to reproduce. We need to write that too, because we're having trouble with biology 101 in today's. We're trying to rewrite the script, but babies are still being born the same way they were born in Adam and Eve in the garden. Takes the same practice, same reproductive organs for this to happen. Okay? Constitutes the pair to reproduce. Two women can't reproduce a baby. Two men can't reproduce a baby. God made us. He made us how he wanted us to be, and that's how it is. And we can fix it up any way we want to, but it does not change what God said in the beginning. The one flesh is primarily seen in the child, okay, born to that union. They will have their father's eyes or nose or feet or whatever, and the mother's this, that, and the other. That comes from the constitution of two becoming one flesh, and the child takes on the characteristics of both parents. In the child born to that union, the one perfect result of the union of the two. Permanent monogamy was and continues to be God's design and law for marriage. And with no knowledge of evil before the fall, even nakedness was shameless. I think yours read, the man and the woman were naked, but they were not ashamed. There was no shame because there was no sin. Even before the fall, nakedness was shameless and innocent. Shameless and innocent. They found their complete gratification in the joy of their one union and their service to God. With no invalid principle of evil to work on the solicitation to sin. Was no sin. With no invalid principle of evil wasn't present to work on the solicitation to sin. It had to come from without and not within. They were made perfect. It wasn't from without, from within. It was from without. And that's where it came from, without. It came from the outside and was brought in. And once it was brought in, now it comes from the inside. But then it came from the outside. The Bible Knowledge commentary says, matrimony is desirable because a wife is a suitable helper. The Lord sanctions marriage, for he states that finding a wife is a good thing, and that God is pleased with marriage. Now, we can just let those principles stick. Then now we know why Satan works so hard against the home. Whatever God is for, he is against. And so he works hard at keeping that disrupted every way possible. The enduring word again says, God says that it was not good for man to be alone. He created the animals first, but they were not suitable for a union for Adam, okay? So his gift to Adam was Eve. The gift of Eve to Adam was a demonstration of God's favor. That's not how we see it now. That ball and chain, that blah, 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 that old lady, but that wasn't God's original intent. It's not God's intent now. Okay? In the modern Western world, the cultural incentives for marriage seem to become weaker and weaker year by year. But God's declaration of good and giving of his favor doesn't depend on cultural incentives. Where you came from, who your folks were, or how much education you have, what your shape is, how much money you got, how you look. Those things, they don't depend. But year by year, the standard gets lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, but not with God. As with the first man, the Creator gives each fractured male with whom he is pleased one wife to complete the abundant life God intended for man to have. Isn't that beautiful? He gives that as a well, I think we just read. He who finds a wife finds a good thing, and he obtains favor. But it's not taught like that. It sure been nice if we taught that earlier. I mean, come on, let's just be honest. If we'd taught this at the very beginning, it would have saved a lot of us a lot of trouble. But our parents, their parents, on and on, they adapted the world's view. But we needed to stay with God's view. It would have helped us all out a lot more if we'd done it that way, God's view. Okay? God intended it to be a blessing and a blessed institution because he brought it about. He brought it about. Benson's commentary says, finds a good thing means a single blessing. Obtaining her by God's good providence toward him. God blesses. God blesses. God blesses. Matthew Henry's commentary says this: a good wife is a great blessing to a man. And it is also a token, a sign of divine favor from God. Isn't that beautiful? When you see that, it shows that there is a divine favor from God in that. God is doing that. A divine favor from God. Okay? A divine favor from God. When you see a union where there's love and respect, there's not perfection because now we live in a fallen world and the people in there together are fallen. But if Christ is the head of their lives, God gives favor to that union. And it's good to have a good wife for the man. Proverbs 19:14 says, "He who is joined with a virtuous woman in marriage is blessed by God." He who is joined with a virtuous woman is blessed by God. He who is joined, Proverbs 19:14. He who is joined with a virtuous woman is blessed by the Lord. Okay? The little writing here says this, and it's very good. I've heard it before. It says, God did not make woman from man's head, that she should not rule over him, nor from his feet, that she should be his slave, but from his side, that she should be near his heart. Isn't that a beautiful saying? Not from his head, that she should rule over him, nor from his feet, that she should be his slave, but from his side, so she should be near his heart. A good wife is a great blessing. A great blessing. We say, but behind every good man is a good woman. We use that term. But this is what this says. A good wife is a great blessing to a man, and it is a token of divine favor. Now, when we looked at Proverbs 31 and we look at all the attributes of this virtuous woman, it goes on to tell us that her husband is known in the village, in the town. He sits at the gate, makes decisions. And he's known because of the type of woman she is. So she is a blessing to him. She's supposed to be, according to God's standards and how he laid it out in the Garden of Eden. Okay. A man who finds a good wife finds a treasure. And when he finds that good wife, it means that God has given him a token of his favor. The favor is coming from God. My husband, my late husband, he used to say, you go to the bar to get a wife, you get a bar wife. You go to the go-go club, you get a go-go wife. That's what you went for, that's what you get. But he who finds a godly, a good woman finds favor, obtains favor from the Lord. So much so that when he prays, Peter says, so that his prayers are not hindered, he needs to be praying in line with the benefit of her and what's pleasing unto God. And he needs to be treating her in a godly manner. Otherwise, whatever he prays is going to be hindered. His business will be hindered. His job will be hindered. You know, that's interesting, isn't it? And you say, I wonder why that person is not successful. Wonder how they treat their family at home. See, God looks at the heart. Man looks at the outer appearance. But God was concerned about the heart and a true godly relationship. He wasn't interested in how it looked. God was interested in how it is. How is it for real? And most of the saints in the Old Testament suffered because they chose wrong. Okay? God was not pleased with that. Cain, instead of him finding the godly one, he went outside. He wanted something different. Well, he got it. You want something different, you'll get something different. Okay? It is a token of the Lord's favor when he finds a godly, helpful bride. Now, if he mistreats that person, he's going to suffer for that. Because that's God's prerequisite in marriage, that you find a godly person and you will be blessed with the favor of God. But when you misuse them, abuse them, mistreat them, you won't get far. You won't get anywhere like that. He who finds a good wife finds a good thing. And he gets favor from the Lord. The kinder he is, the truer he is, the more he's blessed. But if he isn't kind and true and real, then he doesn't get the favor of God. God is concerned about the heart, not about how things appear. Man is concerned about the outer appearance. God is concerned about the heart. How many places have you been where there's a couple, they have cars and money and furniture and all, but they get along something terrible? That doesn't impress God. He's not impressed with that. He's looking at how that man is treating that woman. God is not concerned about that. Sometimes we want to buy more shoes, more clothes, more hats, more furniture, more cars. And people looking with envy. Oh, she's got everything she ever wanted. No, that's not how that works. That's outer appearance. But God's looking at the heart. How do you appreciate what God has given to you? Do you treat it? Do you treat it kindly? Are you kind? Are you caring? Are you protective? And the world is so messed up today that if we meet a man who's like that, we think there's something wrong with him. Oh, he's just a wimp. And he's just trying to be kind, trying to be decent, trying to do the right thing. Because our values are so skewed today. We're going by the world's views. And we think, oh, that's one. Oh, that's one. Oh, they went to Hawaii. They traveled. They did this. But how is that person really? I heard a minister say, if you want to know what kind of man that pastor is, watch his wife. You don't look at the building and all the people and the stuff they have. Keep watching his family. Watch his wife. See the hurts in her. The way she's treated. God is not pleased with that. God looks at the heart. Man looks at the outer appearance. God instituted marriage, not man. Did it read in there? And Eve said, "Oh, he's so cute." No. They had to be beautiful. They were perfect people. I've heard some say, Adam saying, "Wow, woman." That wasn't the point with God. They were flesh of flesh and bone of bone. And their thinking, their objectives was to care what God said and care for each other. Because they're going to represent Christ in the church. God's talking about relationship. About a relationship. What kind of relationship do you have? Not just coming to be here and dressing up, and that's all fine and good. But do you have a relationship with Jesus Christ? Do you know him personally? Do you love him? That's what he's looking at. He's not looking at it was 200 people belong there. That's fine and good. But do you know Christ personally? Do you have a relationship with him? And that's why he said, husbands, love your wives. How? As Christ loved the church. He gave himself for it, that it could be cleansed. You're representing God. You're representing Christ. You're showing how a real, true, holy relationship should be. You're representing God. And if you do something different, you're causing the world to blaspheme. You're causing people to go astray because you're doing something different than what God had intended in the very beginning. He started with a relationship, the institution of marriage. And he took the woman, Isha, out of Ish, the man. And they were to have that common understanding of each other that God intended for it to be. And this mess we got going on now, it has nothing to do with God's plan. And we got a mess too. And we have to be alert, be wise, pay attention, eat his word. Go back and read it again. Sometimes we read it, heard it, but we haven't really, it's gone. But you know that's right. That's what Oprah said, and that's right. That's what Donahue said. And you know, I was watching Ivana, or whatever her name is. I was watching her, she said, so what did God say? And that's true. You need to know yourself first. You need to know Jesus first. That's what you need to know. He needs to know the Lord. You need to know the Lord. And that's what makes the difference. Because God will give you favor. He'll bless you. He'll give you favor. Did you know that? He'll give you favor. He'll bless. He'll bless. He'll bless. He'll bless. This is not pie in the sky, by and by stuff. This is real. It comes from the obtaining favor from God. I think of Billy Graham. What a man of God. God granted that man favor, and he met many presidents. He was known all over the world. Why? Because he was a man of God. And the one thing, when they asked him, what was one thing that he didn't feel like he accomplished? He said he wished that he had been home more, spent more time with his wife and family. Look at God. He granted him favor. He knew to do first things first. Sometimes we don't even know what the first thing is. There's no to do it. Do first things first. Do what God would have you to do. I don't care what the rest of the world is doing. You do what God would have you to do, and you'll grant favor from God. He'll give you favor. Does that mean you won't have any problems? No, ma'am. Not in this world you won't. You probably going to have more problems than you ever had before, but he'll bring you through and bring you out every time. Because he loves us. He cares. Wonderful lesson.